What's up, people? Welcome to your 7th 3D Studio Max tutorial, and in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to hide, freeze objects, and also how to work with layers. So I started anew right here, so let's go ahead and create something like two boxes. We can put those over here, and we'll create create two spheres over here, and just go ahead and move those up. Go ahead and move those up above the plane just cause there's no really reason to. Just do it. And now let's go ahead and get started with the tutorial. So you can go ahead and hide and freeze objects. Now when you freeze an object, it prevents it from moving or being selected, but it's still rendered out. And when you hide an object, it hides it from view, and also it's not rendered. So if you're wondering, alright, how do I do this? In order to hide or freeze an object, go to Tools and go ahead and go to Display Floater. And now this brings up your pretty much hide and freeze panel. So now if you go ahead and click an object, like I said, you can go ahead and freeze it under this section and put freeze selected. And as you can see, anything that's frozen, it turns gray. So you can take this one and freeze it too. So freeze selected. And now you can see, like I said, anytime it's frozen, you can't move it with the mouse. So let me go ahead and try to select this. Can't select it, can't select either one of these, can't move them. I can select these, but I can't select these. So let's go ahead and unfreeze all, so we can unfreeze everything. And now let me show you what hiding it does. So go ahead and click an object and go ahead hide selected. And what that does is not only hide it from view, but it also, whenever you render it out, that object will not render. So you can hide a bunch of objects, hide selected, and then whenever you want to have them pop up again, just go ahead and press unhide all, and then unhide all of them, if you couldn't guess. It's pretty easy, but that's pretty much how you hide and freeze objects. So that's all you need to know for that, pretty much. The other thing I want to show you is about layers. Now, in order to work with layers, you need this little layer toolbar right here. And if you don't have it already, then what you need to do is go to Customize, Show UI, and Show Floating Toolbars. Then the Layers toolbar will pop up, and you can dock it in your main toolbar up here. So I'm not going to click it, or a bunch of toolbars are going to pop up, but you do that and get all your layers. I'll wait for you. Did you do it yet? Did you do it? Alright, you good to go? So now you should have this toolbar that popped up along with 80 other toolbars, and I'll show you guys how to create new layers, and also you'll see why new layers are useful. So at default, everything is in your default layer, all 4 objects we created. Bam, 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 bam. But say we want to separate these objects into layers from squares or cubes to spheres. So what we need to do is go click create new layer, which is the 3 pieces of paper with a little star on it, and then we got a new layer, and we'll name mine balls. Can't name it spheres because spheres isn't funny at all. We gotta name it balls. Go ahead and click OK. Now go ahead and select an object, and you need to hit this add selection to current layer. Then go ahead and select this and click add selection to current layer. So now we got these 2 balls in our layer. So let's go ahead and create another layer for the cubes. Create a new layer and create cubes. Press OK and do the same thing. Add this to the layer and add this to the layer. Now if you're wondering, alright, pretty much how can we see all these layers? Well, I'm just going to show you. Enough talking. Go ahead and click on Manage Layers, and now you can see that you have a default layer with no objects in it, and you have, if you click this little plus sign next to balls, you have sphere 01, and next to cubes, somehow I got sphere 02 in there. Just go ahead and cut that and paste it in here. So we got our 2 spheres in balls and our 2 boxes in cubes. So this is pretty much how you can work with layers easier. If you're saying, alright, what's the point of layers just for, aside from giving me a tutorial on them? Well, if you go ahead and collapse those again, what you can do, instead of hiding or freezing individual objects, you can now hide and freeze entire layers. So look at that. If you want to freeze all of your cubes, go ahead and freeze cubes. If you want to hide all of your balls, go ahead and hide both of your balls. And this is just an easy way that you can work with a group of layers. So say for example you have a huge animation with a portion of things that you don't want to accidentally mess up. Just put them all in a layer and freeze them, and then you can't move them around no matter what. So in order to delete a layer, you need to meet two criteria. First of all, no matter what, well, I'll show you first. First of all, it needs to be empty. So go ahead and cut the objects out of that and paste it in default. And as you can see, this cubes layer is empty right now. But if we go ahead and try to put delete highlighted empty layers, we can't. That's because there's a checkbox right here. Go ahead and check another layer and then you can delete it. So you can't delete any layer that has a checkbox on it, or if it has something in it. So again, if you want to delete this layer balls, you just can't highlight balls and press the X. You have to cut everything out of it, paste it into somewhere else, cut, paste, because you know it has to go somewhere. You just can't delete a layer and all your objects are going to delete. And then make sure it's not checked, highlight it, and then go ahead and press the delete highlighted empty layers button, and it'll delete highlighted empty layers. Pretty simple. So that's your pretty much, let me think if there's anything I forgot. I've already covered that pretty much. So yeah, that's it for this tutorial. You finally made it through it. I know it was tough, but thank you guys for watching. If there's anything I forgot, I'll just put them in the next tutorial, but I think I covered everything, all the basics at least. So again, thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you next tutorial. What's up guys, welcome to your 8th 3DsMax tutorial. In this tutorial I'm going to be going over cloning really quick, and I'm also going to be going over something called arrays. Now I'm just going to do a real quick tutorial because I'm actually trying to hurry up and get into some advanced modeling, because I want to start building some UFOs and people. But before I do that, you got to understand what cloning is, so I'm got to make a tutorial real quick. So in order to clone an object, we first need an object. So I'm going to go ahead and make a little box, and it's a pretty good looking box. So in order to clone it, and it pretty much means copy and paste it, but you can't just copy and paste it. You can't just, where's copy and paste? I'm not seeing it anywhere. But what I do see is that I can go ahead and select this object, and I can go to edit and clone. Now what clone means is pretty much just create a copy of it. So let's go ahead and create copy and go ahead and click OK. Now as you see, nothing changes. And that's because what 3DsMax does is they put the copy on top of the other copy. Why? I don't know. But it's there. If you move one around, you can see that it's actually there. And another way that you can copy this is go ahead and select it, hold down the shift key, and do any transformation like move, and then just let the shift key go and your mouse button go, and now your clone options button pops up. And this brings me to another thing. What we have here is copy, instance, and reference. What copy means is it makes an entirely different copy that you can do anything to, and it doesn't affect the thing that you copied it from. An instance, if we select this as an instance, let me show you what happens. It becomes an instance of this object. So if we go ahead and change this object right here, let's go ahead and modify one of the properties, you can see that they both change, because even though they're two different copies, so to say, they're each instances of the other. So whenever you change one, they both change. And that's different than this one right here. This one was a regular copy, so that's totally separate. So when you put a regular copy, you can modify this, and the original one doesn't change. But whenever you have an instance and you modify it, they both change. So remember, an instance is pretty much the same thing in two different locations, and a copy is two totally different things. So with that being said, let's go ahead and delete all of these. Just select them, press delete, and let's go ahead and create another box. Let's create this skinny one and make it pretty tall like that, like a big old slit. So now I'm going to show you guys how to create an array. Now what an array is pretty much a bunch of duplications of an object. So instead of having to copy that and copy it and copy it, if we could just pick like a button and have it copy like 10 times, that would be awesome. So for example, let's say we're making like a wall with like spaces in it. I don't know. I really don't know. Or dominoes or something. Say we wanted to copy this a bunch of times. Well, copying it could get a little repetitive, so let's go up to a new tool, and that's Tools, and probably should select that first. Tools, select Object, I'll get it eventually. Tools, Array, there we go. And what this does is bring up your array panel, and what an array is pretty much allows you multiple copies of this. So the first thing you need to do is go ahead and click Reset All Parameters. So that way, if you have some numbers in here, in there, and in there, just go ahead and click Reset, and it'll change it all to default again. And another cool thing, which I'll show you later, is the preview. But like I said, I'll show you later. So what we want to do is we want to copy a bunch of these along the x-axis, and the x-axis is the long ways right here. So let's go ahead and say, alright, how many, or what this is incremental. What spacing do you want in between your objects? And I want mine spaced like 10 spaces apart. And this array dimensions, the count, is how many objects you want. Well, I only want, let's say 7. So now we have 7 objects spaced 10 units apart. So what this totals mean is pretty much how far apart they're spread times how many they are. That's the total. I really don't know why they give you the total. I guess if you want to change a total distance, I don't know. Just the only 2 parameters you need are what axis, how far apart you want it, and how many elements. And another cool thing, like I said, I promised I would tell you, you can preview this without having to, without having to set it firm and press OK. So I preview this and I see, alright, I got my 7 elements, but I need them spaced out a little more. So I'm going to go and raise this baby up like that, and look at that. Oh yeah, that's the effect I'm wanting. So now that I previewed that, I can go ahead and click OK and set it. So that's where preview comes in handy a whole lot. So that is the basics of how to create an array. So now you see, instead of just 1 element, I got 7 elements or objects. So that is the basics of cloning an object. And again, an array is pretty much a bunch of clones, but you do it all at once. And again, to get to that, that's Tools, Array. So that's that for this tutorial. Like I said, I'm trying to just give you the basics now because I want to get into some pretty advanced modeling. So thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you check out my next tutorial, and hopefully you subscribe. So again, thank you, and I'll see you next time.